Welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast, with your host, Latoya. This podcast was created as a platform for spreading love. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Latoya, and welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast. I am here today. I have an amazing young lady. Her name is Rachel, and she was born in Switzerland, but she's viewing us today, and she's going to be live today all the way from Finland. So I am super honored to have her here today. She's going to be discussing with us a beautiful book that she has written on the topic of eating disorders. Her book is called An Adventure Quest from Eating Disorders to Freedom. And I am so happy to have Rachel here. Rachel, through her writing and her public talks, she loves inspiring and empowering people to dare to do things that they are passionate about and to live a more authentic life. The world needs more fun, more authenticity, and more love with a capital letter, according to Rachel. Welcome to Speaking of Love, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. Hi. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Now, you have such a well-rounded history, your background. You have so many wonderful things that you are into, and you have dedicated your life to so many causes. Now, we're going to start out with your personal story. You've been very candid in your personal story in a book that you've written called An Adventure Quest from Eating Disorders to Freedom. Can you tell us about that book and how the journey began?
Yes. So actually, I wrote that book after I completely healed from eating disorders because it was such a struggle, such an ordeal I went through for so many years. I thought that if I could share my story and inspire people who were going through the same challenge, same struggle, that would be amazing. So that's the main reason why I wrote that book. I really wanted to cast a different light on eating disorders and the way I went, I completely healed and recovered from them. And that's really the reason why I wrote that book. So a part of it is my own story, and then I share the tools and how I really went through it. And then I hope these tools can help others struggling with the same issues.
Now, Rachel, you've been very candid about your life in this book. How did you discover that you had an eating disorder, or how did you come to recognize that something wasn't right?
Well, it started a really long time ago. I was about 13 and 13 or 14. And at that time, I started controlling the food I was taking, what I was eating. And I never really noticed at that time that it was eating disorders. Uh, but then I had a very serious horse accident. And after that, things just got worse and worse. Because I guess my body was trying to recover, but I was always controlling the food I was eating, and of course things just got completely wild. And when I was about 16, yeah, from 16 to 23, it was like really, really, really bad. First I was anorexic, and then I turned completely the opposite, and I went bulimic from the age of 23 until much longer, much later. And I was diagnosed with eating disorders when I was 17. And since then, it's been just a battle with, doctors and therapists and, trying all the way I could possibly find to get through it. And
Now,
finally,
Rachel, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and finally, I found my own way out of this, but it took time.
It took time, and you had a lot of intense therapy and people helping you.
At the beginning, yes, a lot. Well, it's been a bit difficult because at the beginning it wasn't really like eating disorders. It was just always this fight for losing weight and getting back to my, normal shape, or what I thought was my normal shape. And so it was more like diets and diets, and I went to see nutritionists and other dietitians, and it was like it was all about losing weight. And then it got really bad, and I was so seriously anorexic that I was in hospital for quite a while. And then but it was always this talk about food, diet, and uh, trying to solve my family history so I could move on. And it was leading nowhere, and I just got worse. But I stopped after a while seeing people, especially for specifically for that issue, and I started working on myself more as personal development to feel better in a general way. And finally, that was the way out. But the normal therapy never worked with me. I attended many of these speaking groups, or even the how can I say, the old way of doing psychotherapy never worked for me regarding eating disorders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, Rachel, that's amazing that you have overcome this. Now, in writing your book, what are some of the tools that a person can take away from reading your book if they may be struggling with an eating disorder?
Yeah, so in this book, I share actually um, the steps that I took and that finally took me out of it. And it was more about regaining who I was and stopping losing myself in other people. Because I think where it's all started is when I started looking at um, other people opinions of me, of what a real of sorry no of but what the proper body image was. And I was always looking for answer out of myself regarding food, regarding body image. It was always like asking other people what I should do. And it all started to change the day I decided that I had to claim my own power back, and that it was my life, my issue, and that I could do something about it. It was my body, and I was the one in charge. So
Hmm.
that was the key number one that really started to change things. Was about steering my own ship instead of, waiting for others to have the solution for me.
Yeah, so you kind of took your own action and took a lead in your life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's
So I
wonderful.
shared this in the book, and there's also a free download on my website to just summarize all these points, because I want others to be really able to use them and apply them and hopefully get out of this nightmare. And then the other thing was to give up on guilt and stopping accusing or judging myself for still being bulimic or having all these issues with food after such a long time. So I started stopping really judging myself when I was binge eating or I was purging and things like this. And this also helped. And for a long while, I was actually thinking I would be bulimic all my life. So I better made it, how can I say? Better made it easy. I know it may sound strange, but instead of feeling guilty every time I was binging or purging, I was just saying, that's okay. You can't do better now. That's okay. And and actually that helped too.
Yes, Rachel, that's such a beautiful testimony there. You have taken your pain and given it a greater purpose by being here today to help others, because what we don't realize is that eating disorders is a very popular, it has gained a lot of notoriety here in recent years, and it's a closet disorder in a lot of ways because people are not open about it. It's something you do in secrecy. It's something that you do with shame. So, Rachel, what advice would you give to a young lady who may be watching or listening right now who's struggling with an eating disorder and they don't know which way to go?
Yeah. Oh, just one thing you said is so important. Yeah, it's such a disorder that nobody actually really talk about, especially bulimia, because there's like a shame on it. You can easily talk more easily in a way talk about drug addiction than being bulimic,
Yeah,
because
because it seems like it's more accepted.
Kind of, yes, yeah. And especially there are many women, and there are men too, who are such a high achiever and they are bulimic. So it would be such a shame if they were uncovered. So usually it's a very lonely, um, I don't want to call it disease, but issue.
Mm-hmm.
And
Challenge.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone who's dealing with that issue now, I would just say it's the best way you found now to cope with different things in your life. So actually, your body is helping you. Your body, your brain are both trying to help you, even if it totally sounds the opposite. And it's the best way your body and your brain have found right now to cope with all that is going on in your life. So
Mm.
instead of criticizing yourself and thinking that there's something that needs to be fixed in your brain or in your body, it's actually just the opposite. And for me, that was another key, that to understand that I was not a psycho, I was not crazy, I had no mental disorder, and that actually my brain was so powerful and so healthy that it was creating that issue to help me survive. Because I believe eating disorders and many other addictions are just surviving modes. And once we understand this, it's easier to shift things around instead of thinking that there's really something wrong with ourselves. And we start thinking, no, gosh, we are so well made. Our bodies are so amazingly clever. That's why they develop um, well, unhealthy issue, but to point that there's something that needs to be attended there. So I don't know if I make
Now,
it.
Rachel, yeah, aside from writing your book, An Adventure Quest from Eating Disorders to Freedom, I understand that you have done quite a few public talks. Can you talk to me a little bit about the public talks that you've had?
Yes, actually, since I quit my previous job, I become an adventurer, like a proper one. I go on expeditions in the Arctic, solo or with my dogs, and I just go for unsupported expedition for many, many days or weeks. And I do my public talks on these expeditions, and then I use these public talks, these opportunity to talk, to explain that it was not so easy for me, that I come with all this history of eating disorders and challenge, because when you suffer from eating disorders, everything you do like every day is an extra challenge, because you have to behave like a normal person, but you're all the time fighting with yourself.
Yeah.
So and I think it's the same for anybody who's dealing with body issues, body image, weight issues. So it's a constant struggle. And despite this, I was able to do amazing physical challenges. And that
Tell us
really,
about those physical challenges.
right. Um, so one of my biggest one was like hiking 700 kilometers. In miles. It's about half, like 350 or 360, um, in northern Scandinavia with my dogs, and totally unsupported. So I was carrying all the stuff for about 3 weeks, and I was alone out there. It's total wilderness. So that was my first huge one, and it was amazing. It was really cool. It was called hiking for the Arctic. So that was one of the biggest I did. And then, well, and the latest actually happened last February, when I went skiing on my own. I didn't take my dog. I was pulling a 40-kilo pulka. Again, I don't know in stone, sorry, but
That's okay.
yeah, quite heavy one. And I skied 700 kilometers again, but in full winter, by minus 30 something, so really cold temperatures. And I
Wow,
was out
that is
there.
amazing.
Yeah, I was
That
out
is
there for three
amazing.
weeks. But now I'm able to do all this because I really listen to my body. And I know it has the strength and the ability to do these amazing things. So instead of punishing it and judging it, I really make my body my friend, my best friend. And that's how I can make all these expeditions without ever being injured or sick, because I listen to the needs of my body. And I believe that what I do out there in these extremely cold conditions or extreme weather conditions, you can use it as well here in your daily life, because all the stress we have in our lives, all these are also really harsh conditions for the body, for the brain, for the mind. And our body has special needs too. So we should listen to it the same way I do when I'm out there and my life depends on it. Because every day in your daily life, your life also depends on how you listen to yourself, to your heart, to what your body tells you. And that's
Now,
what I'm so excited about,
that's
actually.
wonderful, Rachel. Now, when you wake up in the morning, is there something that you do to get your day off to a great start?
Yes, yes. I always start with some yoga moves for the face, for my whole body, like breathing. And I always set an intention for the day. Like, yeah, today I want to feel awesome. Something amazing is going to happen to me. So I really use this mindset shift to, yeah, to start on a good way my day. And I use a lot of exercise, that use both body movements and breathing, and also how you can say visualization or things like this. It doesn't take long. I take about 15 minutes every morning to do that. Yes.
That's wonderful, Rachel. I look at you and I see your strength, your power. You are such a magnificent person and you've overcome quite a few adversities in your life. Where does that strength come from? Where did that come from?
Well, I don't know. Um, I believe we all have it in us, and maybe the challenges that we are faced with are meant to waken up these resources that we all have inside.
Yeah.
For me, it started very early with these eating disorders, but probably, I don't know, you have also many challenges, and all the listeners here, I'm sure they have their own challenges in different levels. So now I'm always interested in finding out, okay, so what was your biggest challenge since you are this or this age? And what does it teach you? Where is it bringing you? Because without eating disorders, there's probably tons of people I wouldn't have met or things I wouldn't have done.
Hmm.
I don't know what this strength comes from, but the more I develop it, the more I know I have unlimited resource supply of strength. And
And I love what you're doing too because you're taking the strength that you have inside of you and you're using that strength to strengthen others. You're here today and you're talking to us and you're enlightening us and you're giving us this empowerment to let us know that what we need is already inside of us. I know for me, when I was in my 20s, I was on every diet known to man. I did the Atkins diet. I was on a low carb diet, low fat diet, liquid diet. I did the lemonade diet. I did all these crazy diets. And at the end of the day, none of it helped me lose weight because even if I was on the lemonade diet and I lost 15 pounds, the moment
mm,
I stopped doing that diet, the weight came back plus some. So I struggle with
yeah.
my weight a lot, Rachel. I definitely I can identify with you in a lot of areas and what you're speaking of with the eating and beating yourself up and not feeling beautiful. And now here I am, I'm 45 years old. I'm fat, but I'm happy. And I look back on my 20s and I go, wow, first of all, I wasn't fat at all. Secondly, I spent
Yeah.
I spent so much time beating myself up looking for this Essence magazine ideal of perfection, the Jet magazine model of the week. I was none of that, but what I did have inside of me was a beautiful heart. And that's what matters at the end of the day. And that's what I want my viewers, my listeners, my audience to know today, that it doesn't matter how you look on the outside. It's about how you feel inside and what you carry inside your heart. There are plenty of people in the world today who have perfect bodies, but they're mean, they're rotten, they can't be trusted, they're dishonest. So what the beauty of your heart is more important than the beauty of your hourglass figure, of your shape. And I had to learn that lesson after years and years of yo-yo dieting, years of in my closet. I have every size. I have a 10, I can wear an 8, I can wear a 6, all these different sizes. But what size is my heart? And that's the message I want to get through to my audience today, is that you can work inside of you, but you got to know that the work that's inside of you is what matters, and it's not so much the outside. Am I right, Rachel?
Yeah, you're totally spot on. And something you really said that is so important, that yeah, it's not only about the shape, but how you feel about yourself. And we lose so much time complaining and trying to cut our real self down because of these diets. Imagine the time you lose, trying to say, oh no, I shouldn't do that and this. It makes us miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm not to say that we cannot follow this or this diet, but for me, it depends from which point of view you come from. If you do it because you feel less than, not good enough, uh, then you're gonna look all around the place, all over the place, and will never be happy with the diet you follow. And but when you said, "Oh, I want my body to thrive, I want to be happy, I want to feel healthy and strong, and to shine my light," and I'm attracted to that diet, then go
Yes.
for it. Go for it. Why not? And if it suits you and you feel great and
Yes.
your body feels great, that's fine. And I think that we should take things the other way around, rather than, yeah, this is going to make me thin, from I want to shine and feel awesome, and yeah, I'm attracted to that food or
Yes.
this. Yeah. And
And Rachel, by living that way, it provides you with more happiness. What would you say is the most important tool that people need in order to be happy with themselves, no matter how they look?
oh, wow. Um, I think first that if you realize that the body you're in is the one you choose, because I believe that we have the perfect body for what we are coming on this planet to do. And so if you come from that standpoint, it's already shift things. And then I think it's more the way you feel from the inside out, because then you have tremendous resources, or tremendous source of energy coming, and you're never tired, and you're always inspired to do things. And when you have a down day, you know that you're going to have a better one the next one, because it's only temporary.
Yes, it's
So
only temporary.
yeah,
Exactly.
and it's okay to have down days, because we can't be like full on, full throttle all day long every day.
It's a part of the human experience. It's a part of being human. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's like making peace with yourself and your body image, because you chose it
Hmm.
somehow, and it's there to serve you. And I'm sure that if you decide that you have this body, you chose it, then it's gonna be like, okay, so why? Because some people, we are very lucky, but some people have an arm less, or some really serious issues, and
Hmm.
they're thriving, they're happy, because they cannot rely only on beauty, and they found other way around. When you are, like the normal standard people, and you have really good bodies, then we are so mean to ourselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I tend to do it, one on one, again, like, oh, I should be like this, or I don't look so good. And then I'm like, okay, so what's the real issue behind this? What's
Yeah.
going on right now?
Yeah. Well, Rachel,
And
I'm here to tell you that you look beautiful. You are vibrant. You're amazing. And I admire what you have done, what the book that you have written to help people who may be feeling a little down and out. And you provide hope for us, because there's someone listening and watching right now who's going through an eating problem or a challenge with the way they eat food or their relationship with food, and you give us hope that we can overcome that. And I truly appreciate you for being here today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me because, yeah, it's really important if I can share that message.
Yeah,
And really, it's important. And there's something you said about food. I think we put so much emphasis on eating the right food that sometimes I think whenever we don't eat the right food, and I don't know what's the right food actually, but consider the healthy food, it's like we're doing something dreadful. We're
yes,
nearly being illegal.
yes.
And I'm like, oh, come on, guys, it's only food in the end. you know, of
Yes.
course, there are some food that are probably better. I'm not so much into processed food or things like that, but from time to time, come on, indulge and have fun with food, and it's part of life.
Yeah.
And I guess, well, I believe also that the energy we put on the thought we have when we eat the food is more important than the food itself. If you eat something and while you do it you feel so guilty, so bad, then don't eat it. It's gonna
Yeah.
stuck everywhere and you're gonna pile up with pounds or I don't
You
know.
know, another thing that I've noticed too with food, I like to be present with my meal. So let's say, for example, if I'm on my way to work and I'm eating a sandwich while I'm driving, or if I'm looking at a podcast or something while I'm eating food, that's not the best way for me personally to eat food because I don't feel like I'm at one with my food. I'm not present with it. So what I like to do is I like to take my time, turn off everything around me, the music, the radio, no driving, and just be present with my meal and eat it and enjoy it. Because if I have all these other external factors going on while I'm eating, when I'm done eating that meal, I'm still going to be hungry. So if I find that I'm taking my time and being present with it, giving my full attention to eating it, you feel more satisfied at the end of the meal.
That's so totally true. Yes. And it, and nowadays there's so many interference. You know, you can watch your phone and social media where you eat, or as you said, listen to a podcast or something. And we tend to skip these meals or just eat in a hurry. And I think it's sad because actually eating is part of the experience we come here to live. So
Mm-hmm.
I noticed this. I've learned it the hard way because when I was doing one expedition, you know, I have to eat this dry food at the end of the day. But it become just the best moment because it's the time when you know the days are over, you've done all these miles, and now you can rest and eat. And I think it's one of the first time where I was enjoying eating, you know, out of this plastic bag and this, you know, freeze dried food. But it felt so good, and I'm like, well, I don't know if it tastes the same when I eat it, if I would be eating it, you know, on a normal day in a normal place. But out there, by minus 20, it just feels awesome. So it's true. Yes, we should really be more present when we eat. And this satisfaction about food or, you know, having more cravings for anything else, maybe, or certainly will be less strong.
Yes, and Rachel, just to give a little background about my podcast, this podcast is called Speaking of Love, and I created this podcast in honor of my father. His picture is right up above us here. My dad was a radio TV personality. He had a radio show here in the city of Detroit, and it was called Speaking of Sports. So I named my show after my dad. He committed suicide on March 2nd of this year. And so, to honor him and all, I have created this platform. And just before my dad took his own life, he had gastric bypass surgery. So, we're talking about eating disorders today. And this show is dedicated to my dad in the memory of him. But about a year before he took his own life, my dad had gone through a major transformation with his weight. He had a relationship with food that caused him to gain a whole lot of weight, and he ended up having gastric bypass surgery. So even in having that surgery and losing all of the weight that he lost, over 100 pounds, even after all that, he still wasn't at peace within himself, and he still struggled with mental health challenges even after losing all that weight. So the point that I'm going back to is sometimes we can say, if I lose 100 pounds, I'll be a better person, I'll feel great. But sometimes you can lose a significant amount of weight and still not feel complete. So this show was created to help spread love, and that's exactly what we're doing here today, Rachel. So on this podcast, I ask all of my guests the same question, the $1,000,000 question on Speaking of Love, the podcast. And that question is, Rachel, how do you define love?
Oh, wow. What a question. Oh, for me, love is something that has no limit, something huge that we have all inside of us and that we need to spread more. Um, it should be something unconditional, and it makes uh, it makes us happy and also shine from inside out. This radiant, vibrant energy that comes from within, and that you can, well, for me, I can really feel it in my body, and then it spreads to the outside, and it's made to be shared and to be received.
Yeah.
It feels warm, it feels amazing, and it brushed things in beautiful colors. So
Yes.
um, yeah, self-love is something that I'm still trying to improve, but I've made huge progress from where I started from, and I think many listeners are the same. And now I understand that it's not shameful or it's not being selfish to love yourself, but it's quite the opposite, or it's totally the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
When you love yourself, you can share more love to others, and you can spread it and inspire and help others far better than if you hate yourself.
Right.
It's awful. It's awful to hate oneself. So yeah.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for being here. I have truly enjoyed our chat. And I want our audience, can you give us the information about your book again so we can know where to pick up a copy?
Yeah, so it's called An Adventure Quest from Eating Disorders to Freedom. You can find it on Amazon, on all the market of Amazon, and also on my website, which is rachelfreibandieri.com. And there on this website, there's also this free download on eating disorders, on other things like overcoming challenges. So if
Okay,
you want to
Rachel, give me
get,
your website again. I'm going to type it in the comments here. It's
yeah,
Rachel.
so it's Rachel Frei Bandieri, like my name,
Okay.
yeah, .com.
Okay. I'm going to put that right there, link it right there in the comments.
Yeah,
And that
awesome.
way everyone can go on and pick up a free download copy of your book. Thank you so much for
Oh
being here,
no,
Rachel.
no, not of my book, of this, of my the tools I shared about eating disorders. But the
Oh,
book is on Amazon. There's a link also on my website.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Rachel, when the pages of your life are reviewed, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Um, I'd like to be that kind of person that help others open their mind, cast a different light on the way our mindset plays a game in our lives, and that we have amazing resources, that we are all able to go over huge challenges, and that we shouldn't be uh, placed in this small box that defines us, that we should go over our limiting belief and really live the life that we feel called to, even if it's totally out of the box.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'd love people to be happy and live authentically in their lives.
Oh, now Rachel, before I let you go, there is one source of happiness that we have not spoke about for you, and that is you have, I think it's 3 dogs and a cat, a magical cat.
Yeah, I
Tell
did.
me about them.
Oh, I still do many of my adventures with all my team. We are called the
Oh,
Striders Adventures. And as the Striders, I've been hiking with the dogs, with the cat, but I also take my horse with. And the Striders Adventures now is an association, and all the money I get from, I try to use it for charity regarding animals. And that's actually why I'm in Finland now, because I'm working as a volunteer in a husky uh, point or farm, because, with the COVID, they don't have as many tourists and they need extra help. And I've adopted two huskies now from
Oh,
this place. Yeah.
well, that is
So,
so wonderful, Rachel. Wonderful. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. I thank you so much for being here. And you are such an inspiration. And I feel so like, after speaking to you, I feel like I can move mountains. I feel wonderful. So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or you'd like for our audience to know about you before we go?
first, I want to say thank you to you, because you shine totally from the inside out. You're brilliant and beautiful. So
Thank you.
it's really nice to have met you and be here today. It's an honor.
Yes, and please,
Um,
let's keep in touch.
yes, and I will share this podcast because it's really worth it.
Oh, yes,
So,
definitely.
yeah. No, I don't know about me. I'm just happy if my message can help people. And if you have any questions, just please contact me, and I'd love to help more. Well, the best I can, of course. But if there's anyone listening to us tonight today, sorry, for me it's night, that's why. uh, Please take care of your body, take care of yourself, and stop being guilty for struggling through any kind of eating disorders, because you're much more than that. So don't let
Wow.
anybody or anything limit you to that issue. Yeah, that's it. So thank you very much for having me. It
Oh,
was
beautiful,
a pleasure.
Rachel. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'll send you big
Thank
hugs
you
from
so
the
much. And to our
other
audience, thank you all so much.
side. Okay,
Oh,
thank you
thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you. And to our audience, thank you all so much for tuning in today. I will be back here